Wayne Powers in for Keith. Happy Wednesday. 704-570-1110. Ricky, don't lose that number. 704-570-1110. We have seen a major bailout in the past year of General Motors. It is now GM, seems to be known around many circles as Government Motors. $20 million that we've used to bail out GMAC, $50 million, for General Motors generally, and now, just happening in the last few days, General Motors is going to pay $3.5 billion for a car financing company that kind of specializes in riskier loans. And I said, I'm not sure about this. The one guy I want to talk to that I know comes from that area, that deals with the automotive industry, that's his district. He's one of the most principled guys in Congress, I think, and somebody that I've had the pleasure of having on so many times I almost consider him a friend, and that's Congressman Thaddeus McCotter. I want to have him join us here on News Talk 1110 WBT. Congressman McCotter, thank you for joining us this morning.
Oh, always nice to be with you, Wayne.
All right, you heard my intro here. I'm concerned about this, and now I know this is your constituency, and I know this is a touchy issue for you, but I want to put you on the spot here. What's the deal here? Why in the world? I see deja vu all over again here, to quote a bad quote here. What are we doing? Are we starting this whole cycle over again of risky loans and bailouts all over again?
Well, the purchase by GM, and you're not alone in your concern about it, is not what is, the GMAC part of it was not what was the problem with GM at the time. GMAC became a separate company. Many at the time thought GMAC was actually going to be very helpful. It was one of the things that was keeping GM solvent. Then it was sold off. So what you're talking about now is them buying another...
Yeah, AmeriCredit.
Yes, another credit entity.
Which is subprime, subprime based. Their specialty is subprime loans.
And what I think that's driving that decision, no pun intended, is that the other companies like Ford Motor Credit and others have their own financing divisions within the house, their companies. Now, which I also heard at the beginning of your intro where you said and I agree with this, you don't want it to be Government Motors. So the taxpayers now own 61% of General Motors. That's a fact. Yes. Oh, I'm very well aware of that fact, Wayne. And we want to pay that back here in Detroit more than anything else. And every day we work hard to make sure that happens. And so the purchase of this entity that you're talking about is going to have to be viewed in that light. If the company goes under, Wayne, it's gone. The taxpayers are hurt. Taxpayers will be even more hurt.
But how does
the goal is to make them profitable.
Okay, but how does
the decision was to do that?
But how does extending and starting all over again this love affair with subprime loans in the auto industry? How does that protect GM other than the ability to sell cars to people who can't afford them, have them default, and then start this whole bailout process again?
Well, I would not conflate the cars with the housing market. The car industry was not what crashed the credit markets. And I think that especially in GM's case or any auto company's case, what you're seeing, A, is their attempt to come in and provide credit where the traditional financial institutions are not.
Right.
They still have not recovered from what they've done.
Well, here locally, Congressman McCotter, we had one of the major legendary car dealers, and I won't mention his name, but and he's not GM, it was actually Ford, he almost went to prison because of the policies that he was doing, and mirrored by many other car dealers around town and around the country by selling cars to people he knew could not afford them, getting these people in over over their heads, making the sale, knowing these cars, were going to be taken back, in the future. But who cares? You make the sale, you make the money, and the heck with the people, and the heck with and then the whole process. You send people into debt. You create a horrible situation financially in the country. I don't see where GM is benefiting anybody, including themselves, by doing that. Do you?
Well, you're assuming that they're going to be doing that. And
okay.
Every subprime loan does that. So we're not particularly having a disagreement about something we both find a repugnant practice that's injurious.
So you're saying that they may not be doing this. This is a past process, a past policy of AmeriCredit, and this process may not continue. Is that what you're saying?
Certainly, the instance you're talking about with the unnamed legendary dealership, which is an interesting concept in and of itself. The unnamed legendary dealership, as you pointed out, got in serious trouble for this. And you have to remember, this is all now what we're talking about. The practices that will occur now are post bridge loan to the GMs and the Chryslers. And so they're very well aware that they can't have losses on the books, that this is not something where they can simply just try to get in the money in the short term, because they know they're fighting for their very survival. Whereas in the past, especially when you talk about the egregious legendary unnamed dealership.
You are brutal to me. Now you're brutal.
Well, I know you got to do what you got to do. But that's okay. That was in the past, and It wasn't even the two companies. Either of the companies, GM or Chrysler.
Right. Okay. So are you concerned about this? Let's both. I don't want to pin you down. To something that you don't know. We can't project what they're going to do with this company or not. But do you have concerns?
Well, one, I think we're concerned every day with whether GM and Chrysler are going to make it. We understand that we have to.
Yep.
That it's a fight for
and you're
survival.
right. You are right there in the epicenter in Michigan. What is your prognosis? How's GM doing?
I don't predict. We just do it one day at a time.
Okay.
You'll see, I think the president's going to go out and declare victory, and I think that's precipitous. I think that we all know that every day you have to make a good product, and you have to service your customers, and you have to rebuild the reputation and the profitability of the companies. And any other approach to life, I think, when you start looking too far down the road, is when you get into trouble.
Yeah. And so, what's your prognosis for GM being able to pay back and have the American taxpayers be, hopefully at least to begin with, a minority owner at least?
Well, that's the goal. Again, no one wants it to be government motors, which is why I'm chary about opining on their business decisions, because that would actually be very ironic.
It is. You're exactly right.
So when we look at it, Wayne, no one wants the taxpayers repaid more than GM and Chrysler. And whether you believe it's altruism or the simple fact that means that they survive.
Okay.
That is the goal.
All right. Well, I just want to hit that topic with you because I didn't. Everybody else is sort of have an agenda, and you're right there. And I've known you and had you on for a couple of years now, on and off, and I always enjoy talking to you, and you always give me the straight story, and I always appreciate that from you. So let's move on to some other topics, can we?
Sure.
All right, good. I hope you have some time. Give me your insight into the Wimpy leaks, the WikiLeaks. I call them Wimpy leaks because nobody but a wimp would go, surreptitiously and, from an undisclosed location and endanger American troops, as this gentleman is doing. So, what's your take on that? Is there any real damage? And should we be concerned? Is there more coming? What's your story there?
Well, I don't know what's coming. We do know some of what's out. We do know there may be more on the way. I tend to take it in the historical context. This is not the first time something like this has happened. We've had the instance of the Pentagon Papers back during the Vietnam War with Daniel Ellsberg.
Right.
And so...
And do you equate that? I mean, is this apples and apples or apples and oranges?
Well, I think you're dealing with... The substance of the issue is the same as in a free society with the First Amendment. How do you reconcile that with the interest of national security and our troops in the field? And I think that the Commander-in-Chief, it's like every Commander-in-Chief before him has had to wrestle with this.
Right.
And we as a Congress have to wrestle with this. So I think that the prudent approach is to see what the administration devises to deal with this after their assessment of exactly exactly the question you asked on a factual basis as to what damage has occurred, how it can be reconciled, how the interest in national security can be reconciled with the First Amendment, because the last thing you'd want is Congress to come in and rush precipitously and in the interest of national security to infringe on the First Amendment, or in the other instance is to come out and try to precipitously do something to defend the First Amendment and then endanger our troops in the field and national security. So I think it's a far more complex issue than just,
Well, it is, and it's become more complex to the public. It's got to be complex, on your level in the United States government and in Congress. But even on the public level, as consumers of this information, we're getting stories from both sides. We hear that, there's the Pentagon reviews what's been leaked, and there's no real troops endangered by the WikiLeaks document. And then we hear that yes, there are, and that this is a horrible thing. And we don't know what to believe. I'm not, I can't read 90,000 documents. I'm sure you can't. We couldn't get Congress to read 12,000-page healthcare bill.
That's the point. I think you're absolutely right, Wayne. That's the point. If you have people precipitously pronouncing that this instance has either no harm, has done no harm to our troops, or has done immense harm without having all their facts in order, the confusion is exactly what happens. And Congress, in a crisis, in a confused atmosphere, does not have a good track record of action.
Okay. We're going to have to break in a second. I hope you can you stay with us, because I'd like to find out what you're working on right now and what your prognosis is for the coming elections in November. Can you stick with us for a few minutes?
No, I'd love to, Wayne, but I got to get back.
All right. Well,
usually we're much later at night with each other.
I know it. They move me around. I just go where they tell me. They point me and say, "Here, talk into this microphone at this time," and I show up. But I appreciate your taking the time and carving out. I know you're busy in Washington, and thanks again, Congressman Thaddeus McCotter. If you click on his picture on the WaynePowers.com webpage, you'll go to his website, find out all about what he's doing and his issues and positions. And I really recommend you doing that. You will guaranteed to be hearing more from Thaddeus McCotter on a national level coming up. That's my prediction. Thanks for taking time with us this morning, Congressman.
Thank you, Wayne.
You bet.